I think there is a talent retention problem. I think it's more than a talent retention problem at this point, though, because obviously there's been a lot of stuff that has had to happen to get to this point, right? Like people don't just leave out of nowhere when situations are starting to get dire or whatever. Like usually there's stuff that starts and maybe it's like a small crack in the armor, and over time things just get worse and worse and worse. And I feel like we're seeing this across Microsoft as a whole right now, right? Like we're looking at maybe a situation where maybe management just is not doing due diligence in regards to actually tracking and monitoring the status of these different teams. Look at something like Redfall. Like, you've got Bethesda Game Studios that's supposed to be in charge of the stuff with Redfall and keeping an eye on the Arcane situation and stuff like that and reporting back to Microsoft. They're not reporting. You look at the stuff that we saw with Halo, right? Like, Phil showing up to the studio, them looking at things and seeing how things were, us seeing all the Craig memes, all that stuff as the game was getting ready to launch, and then it got pulled for an entire year. You look at the stuff with State of Decay. You look at, I mean, the list goes on and on. It seems like over and over again, we continue to keep seeing these things more and more at the different studios. And I mean, the thing is like when at this point is someone's head gonna roll in the situation? You've got Booty out there, which I feel like we haven't seen a lot from him. So fingers crossed, maybe he's keeping his head down and he's just hard at work and he's actually taking it seriously. But like, where does the responsibility lie, right? Because obviously, the dev studios need to be making these things known to upper management so they can resolve the issues. Whether in state and situation, right? Like if it's a situation where it's an environment situation, like there's issues in the dev studio and he's just tired of it and he needs a breath of fresh air because of the situation, or whether it's because he feels like he's not getting backing from upper management, or maybe that's where some of it is, or maybe it's just that he wants a change of pace, right? Like he's been there for a long time. We see this a lot in the dev studios that like people like to change it up, people like to try new things. But I feel like it's not just a thing of him wanting to go do other stuff. I feel like there's a culture problem at Microsoft that at this point it's got to get addressed at some point, because we're starting to see this damage brands, new and old, new and existing, that it's not a good look. It's not a good look, and it doesn't make people super confident about the fact that they're about to buy ABK, because it's like, okay, well, now they're going to buy ABK, and now what, are we going to see the same type of culture issues there because now there's no follow through on management trying to make sure that everyone's actually staying on task, doing the jobs, meeting deadlines, stuff like that. Like, sorry, that was a lot of word soup at you all at once, but I think it's just a bigger problem in general. I think there's more to it than just him wanting to try something different.
Yeah. Before I go pitch it to Lou, I'm gonna give my take real quick. Um, I honestly think that there seems to be an issue with the brand itself. I don't know if it has to do with the fact that um, Matt Booty, for example, you mentioned him. He seems to be having a lot of studios he has to deal with them, and a lot of these studios, you know, they're fairly new studios or studios that have been growing slowly, and they don't maybe they didn't have that huge structure, and I can imagine that that could be um, very stressful, huge pain, and I don't I've been saying this since a long time. I don't think that's a job for a one man to um, babysit all those studios. I feel like he needs at least one more person. Maybe split them into. I think I even mentioned before that I believe Obsidian will be a great studio to take other studios underneath them and kind of make them like Bethesda, like their own branch. And because
Yeah.
we seen with Bethesda, like since they acquired them, they have continued to work as they have. I mean, this is Redfall coming at 30 FPS. It's actually not new for them, but the problem is, which we're gonna talk about that soon, is the promises that you know Xbox has done to us about you know delivering the performance and all that. But that's normal on the Bethesda side, and like not all the studios have been doing awful. We got Playground Game, they have been doing a great job. Obsidian, like I mentioned, they have been doing a great job. So I believe that um, they need a little restructuring, especially on the on all those other like Xbox studios, and maybe they need to break them up in small groups and have different leaders. But you know, with them cutting so many people, also like make you think, do they want to do that? And then another thing is like Phil Spencer might, because this is also something we got to take into account, and not defending them because it's it's we basically, you can't forgive them for what's happening right now. But Phil Spencer might have an idea for something, but we got to remember that this is a multi trillion company, and he might promise us something, but then down the line, you know, his bosses might change mind and cut some of the budget out, or say we don't want to do this anymore, and then he has to shift. And unfortunately, this happens with a bunch of companies. Like the higher ups, they can change their decision on a fly, and the people that basically are right there, like they're the face, and they take all the blame, are the other leaders that are like underneath them. So that also could be it could be a multitude of different things. I'm curious to see what Crazy thinks about it. Like, what's your perspective on this, Crazy?
Real, real quick, crazy. Sorry, just to interrupt, but I agree with you that I definitely think that there could be a lot of that, trickle down from the higher ups and stuff. But again, I feel like it's the same issue we keep running into is there's a lot of lack of communication, and there
Yes.
needs to be a lot more of under promising and over delivering. And on both scenarios, Microsoft is failing right now because they continue to relive the sins of the past. They continue to step on the exact same rake over and over again because they're not learning from these mistakes. We've seen these mistakes in previous generations from them, and the difference is it's just different faces now. But I was hopeful this wasn't going to happen again, but I feel like we're starting to see some of those Don Matrick flubs and stuff like that again. It's like, dude, we've done this before. Like, learn from history. Learn from history, Microsoft. We've done this before. Anyways, crazy. There you go. It's all you.
This is what I think, though, and I'm gonna give it to you guys the business perspective side of things. Microsoft, we understand that for last generation they didn't have nothing. I mean, basically, we have to admit they did not have jack shit. I mean, they did not have any games. They did not have nothing. They had a lot of, people wanting first party IPs and stuff like that. People have been asking for it and say, hey, when are they gonna come out? When it's gonna happen? Then, we go to 2020, which we thought this is gonna be the time where Xbox is gonna actually be what we think it's gonna be. What they thought, they said, they promised they're gonna show, they're gonna give us, they're gonna give us games, they're gonna give us all this and all that. The pandemic came, hit them hard. Not only them, everybody got hit hard by the pandemic. 2021, they at least got a few games out, which okay, cool. which was pretty awesome. 2022, we did not see what, like 2 or 3 games, but pretty much they did not deliver. 2022 was basically
It's dry.
just dry. Now we come to 2023 with all the pressure after all these years, because this is what I'm seeing though. I'm seeing that they're having a lot of pressure on releasing these games. I'm telling you, this is like my point of view. I'm not saying that it's actually happened. In my point of view, I think they are having a lot of pressure on releasing these games, and that's why they keep having all these issues. Like for example, like Silent said before, you have Redfall. If they move Redfall, they're gonna get busted for it if they move it. Yet they're going to release the game in 30 FPS. Okay, it's bad. We all agree that's a bad thing. We are not happy about it, you know, that this game is going to come out in 30 FPS. We want it to be in 60. But hey, they say, oh, we're working on a patch that's going to come real soon. I hope that it comes real soon. Like I said, soon, not soon like Halo soon, like, not that Halo soon. We want it to be soon, so that way we can sit down and enjoy the game at 60 FPS and all that stuff. But yes, I think it's because of all the pressure they're putting in, all the pressure they're putting on all these developers, because hey, they got a lot of pressure. I mean, people are saying, "What are these games? What's happening to this? What's happening to that?" I mean, we heard what happened with Everwild. Everwild, all of a sudden, you know, they showed a trailer. Then along the way, they have issues, right? Didn't we hear they had like a bunch of issues and they had to
Yeah.
restart all over the game? And yeah, it's been insane. It's been a crazy ride. And then we heard about uh Perfect Dark is another example. Perfect Dark has had people come in,
Let
leave.
me let me correct you, crazy.
What's up?
Everwild had a soft reboot.
A soft reboot? Mm.
That's what I forgot who said it. Was it Matt Booty
That's
or Aaron Graver?
I think it was Booty if I remember correctly. Um,
Yeah,
Based on the lack of information that we've heard, that is the hardest soft reboot I think I've seen in a
see,
while.
yeah,
Exactly.
that's a hard soft reboot. We also heard like a little bit of problems over there in the State of Decay studio. We have heard a couple problems going on, and that's because I think it's because of all the pressure they're putting in. And I'm gonna tell you something though. This is just the beginning for them. This is something that it's not new. Okay, they've been in gaming for 20 years, but handling these big massive studios probably is something new to them. I don't know. I'm just saying probably something new to them, and maybe they're just not handling right and just trying to get things in order to get it straight. But my hopes are that along the way, right, they learn from these mistakes and they don't just continue to do them.